Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. My name is Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com. You're watching the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel. And like every Thursday afternoon, I am joined by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com, one of the finest handicappers in the country at one of the most iconic sports betting websites in the country as well. As a matter of fact, they've been around for what, 52 years now? Or
52 years. Yep.
52 years. So, wow. Anyway, Doug, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Ross. And, just another lovely day here in the desert. And it's actually been, for most people, if they heard it was 98 degrees, they'd probably be freaking out. But for here, that's actually below average. So we've had like the most pleasant weather. And every night, open the door. Okay. It's just absolutely perfect. And so that's all good. And then, the sports stuff's still looking good. We're done with the NBA. We're done with the NHL. That's all in the rearview mirror now. But, it's just got things coming up. And then I don't know. I've actually been sort of intrigued. I don't know if you have or not, looking at how the Big Ten and the SEC schedules are going to look for 2024, because they've been making those announcements and stuff like that. And that could be a topic for another day, but it's just sort of interesting how things are playing out and how they did different things.
I just briefly glanced at it. I'm sure that Oklahoma is quite pleased with their schedule in 2024 now that they've joined the SEC and the opponents they're going to face. So we'll see. But any thoughts in that regard, since you probably researched it a little more than I have?
Yeah. Well, here's the big takeaway to me is the SEC decided to stay with 8 games, at least for one season, whereas the Big Ten is doing 9. Okay, so that's part of it. And I have read 2 or 3 different articles, and I hope it's true. So then when the playoffs start, the new playoff system, when it goes to 12 teams, it is that the conferences that play 9 conference games should be rewarded more than those that play 8. Now, you can take into consideration maybe these SEC teams go out of conference and play a top level team, which they made. Now they said they're going to play, other quality teams from other conferences, big conferences. But, it's one thing to have basically a good conference opponent versus playing somebody that's in the lower end of a power conference. Not the same thing. So that more than anything, to me, it struck the chord. And so I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out.
I got to believe now we're still in a 4-game playoff this coming season.
Right.
The 12-game playoff will start technically next season. So here's the thing. To me, I think we're going to see a lot more interesting non-conference matchups because now teams are not. Hey, before, Doug, if you lost one game out of the gate, you pretty much had to run the table. To make the 4-team playoff. Well, that's not going to be the case anymore with, 12 teams going to the playoff. The format, I like the format. 5 through 12 will play in week 1 of the tournament. The top 4 teams will get a bye. There'll be 8 teams left after going into week 2 of the playoff. And it makes for a very, very interesting. I've been calling for this for a while. I actually thought it should be 16, but 12, I'll take it. You know what I mean? Because you're rewarding the top 4 teams that would have been part of your 14 playoff every year anyway. I think they did it right. And you don't want to dilute it. But your thoughts, you touched upon it just now. I got to believe we're going to see more intriguing non-conference matchups only because teams will now not want to play Division 1 AA or what do you call it, FCS teams now, and try to improve their ranking and not be fearful of the fact that if they lose 2 games, they're going to be completely out of the playoff. Right. Or if they lose one, you got to run the table. So your thoughts?
Yeah, I hope you're right that's what they do, and I actually hope that they do keep the FCS games. Or some of the, against maybe the MAC or some of those types of games, only because these other teams, that's a big revenue source for them.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I from an equality standpoint, I kind of hope they actually keep that. But yes, I mean, I 100% agree. I think that if you can have better matchups and just, not everybody has to play everybody tremendous every year, okay, to knock yourself out. But still, I mean, just having some of the intriguing matchups. And I mean, this is a correlated point, but I am loving this baseball season with a balanced schedule where you get just more interesting matchups, and then in a lot of cases more interesting pitching matchups, which was one of the things I'll be talking about with my free play for Friday, from that standpoint. So I hopefully they go that direction, and the sport, doesn't let's just say chicken out, because they started to do that a couple of years, or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, had some really good September intersectional matchups, and then it went away, for money.
Yeah, exactly. And they sometimes they forget the money comes from the fans, and the money comes from the fans buying merchandise, and you need to appease the fans. Now, maybe everybody doesn't. I agree with you, by the way, and maybe everybody doesn't feel like me and you, but I would take a wild stab at it and say most people do. They like to see something fresh. I don't know if you want to see the Yankees in Boston play 22 times a year, every year.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of the Boston Red Sox and Yankees purists will say, come on, it's the biggest rivalry in baseball in their eyes. The Giants and Dodgers. I mean, I don't know if you want to steer away from cutting down those matchups in the big picture, but you're certainly I can care less about seeing Tampa Bay play Toronto 22 times. I'd rather see Tampa Bay right now in the state they're in right now. Like to see them more against the Dodgers, more against some of the power National League teams. You know what I'm saying? We're going to cover a game today, which is for tomorrow, that you're going to talk about, and that's Tampa and San Diego. Matchups like that in the pitching matchup we're going to see in that game we're going to cover. Brings a lot of intrigue. Doug, we talked off here and we say we got to spice it up a little bit, our show, when me and you are on Monday and Thursdays. Not because we're getting bad feedback. That's not the case. But just like baseball just refreshed everything and gave us a fresh outlook on matchups, we're going to try to do something fresh here. And we'd be interested, let me clarify that, with your comments, if some of the questions we fire back and forth at each other that you want to chime in, or tell us, would you rather us just shoot the breeze about the topics of the day in sports betting? So anyway, Doug, tell folks what we're going to do going forward.
Sure. Yeah. What we're just looking to do is that, and this is a work in progress, no question about it, but it's basically going to be called fact or fiction. Okay, that's what it's going to be. So each of us will present questions to the other person. We have not communicated in any way, shape, or form, okay, about what the questions are. It's just a blind deal. And and there's things like this on sports radio, sports on different podcasts and stuff like that. But we just thought we'll have our own version of it, okay, and just try and have a little fun with it. See if we agree or disagree. And now we've in a lot of cases we've agreed about stuff. Now maybe we'll have a few more disagreements, which isn't bad, because that creates good conversation.
Yes, it does.
And maybe can enlighten anyone on a particular topic, okay, from that standpoint. So we're going to, so it's called Fact or Fiction. And you know what? Let me get it going, Ross.
All right. Okay? I'm ready for you, buddy.
All right. Here we go. So the Cincinnati Reds are on an 8-2 run, and they're only a game below 500 and just 3 games behind Pittsburgh, okay, for first place in the NL Central. Now, the Reds are currently plus 500 to win their division, okay, which is third, okay, and that's, you can find that in almost any sports book. So, fact or fiction, are the Reds worth betting on to win the division at this time?
I would say fiction, because I just don't see a team winning a division with a bullpen that's that poor. And I still have some question marks about the depth of their quality, or I should say the quality depth of their starting rotation. Now you can make, I'm sure the adversary to that will say, well, who does have starting quality rotation in the NL Central, and you may have a case with that argument, but I would have to say fiction right now, Doug.
And to that end, I'm going to agree with you on that. And my reasoning is a little bit different. I mean, there's some, they can score some runs now when they play in the band, small ballpark and all that. But my bigger concern is that, which is I'm trying to think of the right word, what these franchises tried to do with drafting pitchers. And if you look at the guys that they have brought up in the major leagues, other than Hunter Green, almost every one of these guys is, has multiple pitches, but is in the low 90s. And so you're always trying to trick, the opposing team, as opposed to having a mix of a couple guys that can do both. Either, throw the hard heat at 98 and then have that so you can alternate, your starting rotation in that regard, fast pitcher, guy with, of wider variety. And I just don't think, when you match up, and they've done this recently, even though they've been winning, they match up poorly in that regard because they're just, you got too many guys throwing soft stuff. And so when the opposing team faces those types of hitters, or those types of pitchers rather, I think it improves their hitting. Now, like I say, the last 10 days it hasn't, but I'm just saying in general. So yeah, even though I don't like Pittsburgh or Milwaukee either, they just seem, I think, to have a little more.
Now, what did you say? Cincinnati was how far behind Pittsburgh?
3 games in the loss column.
Okay.
I start to get to this point. That's just me. Everybody's playing 162. So I just start looking at loss columns. I don't look at how many back teams are, because they're all going to play 162.
So they're 3 games behind Pittsburgh in a loss column, which takes me to my question. And no, folks, we did not talk about this before going in. My question is this: the Pittsburgh Pirates to win the NL Central at plus 800. Good betting value right now, worth the risk or not? Fact or fiction?
Let's see here. I'm going to probably go with fiction. And even though, and this is, it's kind of like choosing the worst of 2 elements. I mean, I don't really like this Brewers team. We talked about it at the beginning of the season. Well, it's the only division in baseball where every team has a negative run differential, okay, which is insane. But that's what it is. So, having a guy like Rich Hill on your staff and you're looking to win a division, I think that's a negative. Just from that standpoint. I like some different things there. I like Mitch Keller. I think he's performed well. I just don't see the consistency. And I also believe that I think a manager in this case helps. And I think Milwaukee has the better manager, which I think will be enough to pull them through. It might be 86, 87 wins. Pittsburgh might come in at 82 or 83, but I think it'll just be enough. So I'll go with fiction for Pittsburgh to win the division.
Yeah, I agree with you. Somebody's got to win that division. St. Louis, we keep waiting for them. It looked like they were coming around, and then they went back. They regressed again. I think Milwaukee's the play in that division only because you touched upon it. Their starting pitching is much better. I mean, you start with Corbin Burns right off the bat. Pittsburgh doesn't have an ace that caliber. Now, you mentioned Keller, Mitch Keller. He's pitched really, really well. But Burns has shown the ability to do that for a longer period of time. So I have to give Milwaukee the edge there. And I think just because of the starting pitching rotation, I think both Pittsburgh and Cincinnati will be hard-pressed down the stretch to stay in the race. And Milwaukee right now, I don't know. Doug, do you think that they're only, what are they, 2 games below 500 right now, if I'm not mistaken? I know they're.
Yeah, I actually don't even, I did not, I handicapped it for yesterday, but I actually don't even recall. I know they're right around 500.
They're right around 500. They're behind Pittsburgh by, I think, a game and a half or 2 games right now. So we'll see what transpires there. But let me give you another question.
All right.
The AL Central winner will have a losing record. Fact or fiction?
I'm going to still go with fiction. I think, though, it's likely to me to be Minnesota, even though I heard this the other day. As of last Saturday, the Chicago White Sox, excuse me, had the easiest schedule in all of baseball. Okay,
Yeah.
the rest of the season, but they're still not that good. Okay, and they just find ways to lose games. The bullpen gives away too many games. I think the Twins have enough. I think they have probably the best starting pitching overall, even a little more so than Cleveland. Cleveland has a better bullpen. The Twins' offense isn't great, but it's certainly better than Cleveland. So I think the Twins win the division. I think they'll be above 500, but it could very well be like I believe it was. I forget the exact year, 90 something, when the Cardinals won 85 games and ended up winning the World Series.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Minnesota's going to win the World Series, but I think that it's going to be right around in that ballpark.
Yeah, within a division with Kansas City and Detroit, I got to believe that the Twins will end up somewhere around 6 to 8 games over 500, and that will be good enough to win the division. Detroit looked like they were vastly improved, and then they went on that 10-game skid. Kansas City's just horrible. The Chicago White Sox, you touched upon them already. Whoever wins the division, if they do finish above 500, it's going to be barely. It's not going to be 10 or 15 games over 500. I don't see any of these teams going on a torrid run. No. And you mentioned the scheduling, how Major League Baseball shifted it around, so you're not seeing as many divisional matchups as you did last year, for instance. And I think that hurts Minnesota because now they have to play teams from other divisions as opposed to facing the Tigers and Royals 4 or 5 more times, whatever that number may be. So fair enough. Your turn, buddy.
All right. So Friday night, you mentioned San Diego and Tampa Bay. So Fernando Tatis Jr., since he has come back to the majors, okay, from his suspension, he has the second most home runs in that time span. Okay, so they're going to be facing Tampa Bay. He's hit a home run in 3 of his last 5 games, not including Thursday night, of course. Okay, because we're doing this on Thursday during the day. The over/under Tatis for a home run, okay, is what's my question to you, fact or fiction, and there's no odds, of course, yet, but the odds are likely to be plus odds to take the over. So, fact or fiction, Tatis hits a home run on Friday night against the Tampa Bay Rays.
Fiction, only because he's facing Sean McClanahan, and I just don't see it. I think McClanahan's a guy who can go deep in games. His ERA is really low, and he's not a guy that's acceptable or vulnerable to the long ball, at least in his early career. So your take.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go fact. Okay. And here's why. Like all guys that are good home run hitters, they tend to get them in bunches. Yeah. And that just seems to be what Tatis is doing right now. So to me, with plus odds, I think it's worth a shot and worth a bet on that one. Okay. All right. So we're gonna go the other way. Now I got one for you, and we're going off topic on this one. All right. So when Mr. and Mrs. Benjamin decided to go get some ice cream, okay, on a summer evening, okay, from that standpoint, and I don't even know if you have this, but I'm just going to throw out, would your choice be regular ice cream, or would you go to a place that has custard? So from that standpoint, so to reframe my question, fact or fiction, ice cream, yes, custard second, or what's your answer?
Unequivocally. Me and my wife love Abbott's Custard here, which is about 2 miles down the road. It's a franchise here locally. I thought you did you must have done your research, buddy. But in any event, I just went yesterday afternoon, picked up my wife. She likes her vanilla in a dish with some M&Ms on it. I had my raspberry sundae, vanilla custard, but unequivocally custard over ice cream.
Okay. And we'd like everybody to chime in which one you like, besides what Mr. Benjamin's saying. So if you have a favorite, we'd like to hear from you too.
There you go. So, and folks, the questions we asked each other, if you want to chime in and give us your opinion, we'd be interested in hearing it. And would you like us to continue on with this format? But right now, like I said earlier, it's Thursday, June 15th. We got 2 games we're going to be covering on Friday, June the 16th. I'm going to be looking at the Pittsburgh Pirates at the Milwaukee Brewers. And Doug's going to be looking at a real good matchup between the Tampa Bay Rays and the San Diego Padres. Not only a great matchup, but a great pitching matchup. Folks, before we get to those selections, just a friendly reminder. You're watching the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's sponsored by GamblersWorld.com. Plenty of videos over at GamblersWorld.com. Not only our own, but some individuals are up there as well. But if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. You're interested in sports betting, especially if you watch it to this point, you're real interested in sports betting. So why not subscribe to the channel that's absolutely free? No strings attached, no hidden agenda, no underlying factors other than the fact that you get to join us on a daily basis. And we give out free picks on each and every show. We tape Monday through Friday. We do about 6 shows a week. In football, it's going to increase up to about 10 to 15 shows a week. So looking forward to the future. So why not hit the subscribe button? And while you're there in your YouTube settings, make sure you hit the notification bell so you'll be notified immediately upon any of our Winner's Circle Sports Betting podcasts going up on this channel. And don't forget to give us a like at the end of the video. We don't ask for much. That's all we ask. Hit the like button. It just shows your appreciation for the efforts we put in to making this a successful podcast and making you the best informed we could. And on top of everything else, making you a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. That's what it's all about. All right, Doug. Great matchup here. Sean McClanahan on the mound for the Tampa Bay Rays on Friday evening. Yu Darvish on the mound for the San Diego Padres. I mean, right now, Tampa Bay is the toast of the town. They've been since day one of the season. They continue to be. San Diego, a vastly underachieving and disappointing team to this point of the season. What do you got?
All right, so yeah, McClanahan, he's in the last 2 years, he has been, if he's not been the best pitcher in baseball, he's right there with any of them. 10-1 this year, 2.18 ERA with a whip of 1.1. Though he's left-handed, he absolutely owns right-handed batters, Ross. Teams are hitting the right-handed batters are hitting just 196 against it. And if you watch him pitch, and I'm a big being left-handed myself and liking pitching anyways. His key is against right-handed batters, he is able to bury his fastball or his slider deep into the back foot of any opposing right-handed batter. So he just buries it on him. It barrels. It's coming in on him. It's hard to barrel it up from that standpoint. And then he does that, and then he can go either go away, either high or low, and he gets a lot of swings and misses. Now, Darvish, he's 36. Okay, he's not the young pitcher he used to be. Back when he was 20, he's had a much bigger fastball. But interestingly enough, now he's got such a varied arsenal. I mean, literally, it seems like upwards of 10 pitches where he can vary the speeds, he can vary the tilts, okay, of what he's throwing, and he keeps opposing batters off balance. Now, his ERA is a little bit over 4. And the thing I noticed with him, especially now, he has a tell pretty much early in games. If he's on, he's getting strikeouts and he's not giving up many walks. But if he starts walking batters and he's getting either especially, and if he's getting fly ball outs, he's probably not going to last to the 6th inning. So that just seems something that I've noticed. Darvish, though, against this sounds good. He's 4-0 against Tampa Bay. Okay, with a 1.54 ERA, and the teams he's pitched for are 6-0 in his 6 starts. One problem: he hasn't faced Tampa Bay since 2017.
Yeah,
so that's
a little different lineup. Yeah.
So Padres, okay, coming into as we film this, they have won 5 of their last 6, but their offense to me still remains inconsistent. And I would suspect that McClanahan can shut them down. The total, Ross, of 7 or 7.5 is intriguing, but I look at both bullpens and I see just enough flaws to where I could see a game that's 6 in the 8th inning, and in one swing of the bat it goes to 8. So I'm off that. I'm going to trust the Rays lefty McClanahan to limit the Friars offense. And I think their Tampa Bay offense does enough against Darvish and they engineer the victory. So give me Tampa Bay. Last I saw was 120. Correct me if I'm wrong. Minus 120. I'm good to go with Tampa Bay in this one.
Yeah, the last I looked, San Diego was minus 110.
Okay.
Tampa Bay Tampa opened as a favor.
Yes.
I believe. Okay. So you get Tampa Bay plus 100, Doug, even better.
Even better.
Over San Diego on Friday evening. That's June the 16th, folks. Again, folks, we're taping 24 hours, more than 24 hours in advance. These lines are all subject to change. Both bullpens may have flaws, but Tampa Bay, their last 7, 2.67 ERA, no 89 WHIP as a staff. San Diego at home this year, a 2.65 ERA and a 103 WHIP as a bullpen staff. San Diego's played 22-11-2 to the under at home this season. Great starting pitcher with McClanahan over his last 5, a 1.93 ERA and 0.95 WHIP. Even better, averaging 6.5 innings pitched per start. So he's going deep into games and he's not reliant on the bullpen, even though Tampa Bay's back end of their bullpen is extremely good. Darvish has pitched good at home. That's the only thing I could say. I looked, two of his last 3 outings were terrible, but those were both on the road. At home, he's pitched 4-1 to the under and his 2.03 ERA and 0.94 WHIP in those outings. To me, are a major component as to why those games went under the total. I'm going to go under here, Doug. I know you were talking like you were on the fence with that, but you were leaning toward the under. So I'm just going to make it official. I'll use the under here as my play. Tampa Bay and San Diego to go under the total of 7.5. Doug likes San Diego plus 100. That's the official play. I'm going to, my lean right now as we speak is the game to go under 7.5. I'd like it at 7.5. If it goes to 7, I'm not crazy about it like I am right now at 7.5. So there you go, folks. I'm going to look at Pittsburgh and Milwaukee. And let me explain this to you, folks. We're talking about putting lines up in advance and all that kind of stuff. There's no line on this game right now. And when I assigned all these games early in the week, I looked at this matchup and said, well, Pittsburgh and Milwaukee right now, the top 2 teams in the NL Central, should make for an interesting series. So I assigned myself that game. Well, we don't know who's going to be pitching for Pittsburgh. Originally, it was going to be Oviedo, but he's going to be pitching tonight, Thursday. And he's going to be whoever Pittsburgh throws on the mound. They're going to be facing Milwaukee and Julio Teheran. And Teheran has been very good in 4 starts this year. He's got a 1.48 ERA, an 0.95 WHIP. He's averaging better than 6 strikeouts. He's averaging 6 innings or more innings pitched over that 4 starts. 6.1 innings pitched per start in those 4 outings. Teheran 8-3 career in his team starts against Pittsburgh with a 2.38 ERA, 0.97 WHIP. Pittsburgh since last year, Doug, they're going to be playing a Milwaukee team that's going to be playing with a day of rest as they're off today, while Pittsburgh is on the road at the Cubs. So since last year, Pittsburgh 0-13, as an away underdog of plus 100 or greater, which I assume they're going to be, because Pittsburgh doesn't have quality starting depth in the rotation to start with. And if they're undecided, they're picking a rabbit out of a hat, and they might try to piece it together with their bullpen. And their bullpen has been absolutely horrible over the last 7 games with over a 10 ERA. Milwaukee's bullpen has been horrible as well, with somewhere way up there with the ERA over the last 7. So I'm going to eliminate the bullpens. I'm going to say because Milwaukee is on a 6-game losing streak, you can get a very favorable price on the money line with Milwaukee in the first 5 innings. And that's what I'm going to do, Doug. If it's anywhere from 140 or less in the first 5, I'm on the Milwaukee Brewers in the first 5 innings.
I would venture a strong guess. Whoever Pittsburgh, if they bring up somebody from the minors or whatever they choose to do, or somebody that's in their bullpen, it's going to be a left-handed pitcher because the Brewers are one of the poorest teams against left-handed pitching in baseball. So I think that's likely to be the case. But overall, just there's an advantage. Teheran has just been fantastic. As you mentioned, I think Milwaukee just has enough. This could very likely be a 4-3, one of those types of games. So yeah, from that standpoint, I think he can shut down Pittsburgh's offense, and the Brewers will scratch 1 or 2 runs together. It could very well be 2-1 after 5 innings, Ross. I'm going to agree with you on this one.
All right, so I like Milwaukee in the first 5 on the money line. And Doug Upstone, he likes the San Diego Padres plus 100, or Tampa Bay Rays plus 100 over to San Diego Padres. And that's our picks for Friday, June the 16th. Doug, tell the folks what's going on this weekend, upcoming weekend for you at DocSports.com, and any hot streaks you want to let the
sure. Yeah. Well, I've had I guess I felt I should have been 7-1 in my best bets last night. Unfortunately, there was a pop-up by the hit by Philadelphia, and 2 Arizona outfielder and infielder came in and they crashed into each other and dropped the ball. Ended up costing the game in extra innings. Okay, so hey, those things happen, but still 6-2 run on best bets. Obviously I don't know what they're going to be, but I'm going to be hunting for one of the days this weekend, if not 2. So check, follow that, and still have a winning record of late over the last 2 weeks in Major League Baseball. So that's been solid there. Obviously we don't have the variety. I tease Ross all the time, but USFL 4-0 run, for sure I'll have something lined up for that. I have my eye on already what Canadian Football League game I'm looking at. So that's also, so check the dates, check the different days when you go to my page, look up some page at Doc Sports and see what's available there. I'm likely to have a big play. Also, I'll have a play for sure in Canadian football. It's just a matter of the size, depending what number I can get on the particular day. Ross, what about yourself?
Yeah, I got a big weekend coming up. Major League Baseball. I foresee at least having 6 plays over the weekend, starting with Friday. Major League Baseball on a modest 9-6 run right now, and it's going to get better now that it's my sole focus because all the other major sports are down right now. I don't play gimmick football the way Doug does, and I joke about it, but he does well with it. So don't, because I break his hump about it, don't think he's not good at what he does. He is. I just don't choose to partake in it. I don't choose to watch it. And quite frankly, Canadian football with everybody in motion, it gets me dizzy, So, and I just can't get used to the midfield being a 55-yard line and the end zones being 20 yards long. And if you miss a field goal and you don't return it out of the end zone, you get a point. You miss a field goal and you get 1 point. I mean, what? I don't understand that. How do you reward a guy for missing a field goal? I have no idea. Go ahead, Doug. You want to say?
No. All I was going to say is, doesn't that go along with American society today? How people want to give trophies for finishing last? Come on.
Yeah,
Ross.
well, I didn't
give it the program.
Yeah, but I didn't think the boys up north would go for that junk. Anyway, I got a lot of respect for Canadian people. I mean, I only live 70 miles from the Canadian border. They got great beer, man. I know you like beer once in a while, Doug. Fantastic beer. Not great, fantastic. Anyway, you could find me at rbwins.com. 9-6, like I said, Major League Baseball run. All sports run 39-28. Good for around 58%. And dime players up around $7,800 during that course of time. So there you go. Doug Upstone at DocSports.com. Ross Benjamin at RBWins.com. Let us know if you like the new format where we're doing a fact or fiction type questions. Be sure you chime in, folks. Your comments are welcome. Be sure to stay respectful, though. Be respectful to each other. Be respectful to us, because we certainly are respectful to you, and we're trying to do our best to fill you with the best information on a daily basis to make you a smarter sports better today than you were yesterday. Until the next time, which will be Monday with Mr. Upstone, we'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Take care and God bless, folks.